A millionaire was waiting for a taxi in the courtyard when he saw his ex stepping out of a Rolls-Royce with a little boy. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories, your own family story channel. May the heavenly God bless each of you with a Christmas full of peace, love, and joy. May every woman in this family feel honored, respected, and cherished, the silent strength, the heart, and the soul of our homes. May your health be strong, your hearts be happy, and your families thrive in unity and love. May every step you take be guided by blessings, and may every struggle be met with courage and triumph. If your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." The memory burned like acid in Jai Richardson's mind every single time he closed his eyes, no matter how many years passed or how much money he accumulated in his bank accounts, or how successful he became in the eyes of the world. 9 years ago, he'd sat across from Eniola Crab in her cramped apartment, watching her hands shake uncontrollably as she placed the positive pregnancy test on the chipped wooden table between them. The 2 pink lines had been unmistakable, undeniable, life-changing. She'd been 23 years old, a nursing student juggling 2 demanding jobs to pay for school, her eyes bright with terrified hope despite the obvious fear written across her beautiful face. He'd been 25, hungry for success and climbing fast, building his first startup with borrowed money and borrowed time and ambition that wouldn't quit burning inside him. "We can make this work," she'd whispered across the table, reaching for his hand with trembling fingers that desperately needed reassurance and comfort. "I love you, Jai. We can figure this out together. I know it's scary, but we can do this. I really believe in us." He'd pulled his hand away from hers like she'd burned him with hot iron. The look of devastation on her face when he did that still haunted him in quiet moments when he was alone. "I don't want this situation at all." The light in her eyes had flickered and died instantly. "What do you mean? What are you saying to me?" "A baby destroys everything I'm building right now." He'd thrown an envelope of cash on the table between them, $5,000 he could barely afford to give away, but felt generous offering at the time. "Get rid of it or keep it. Either way, I'm done with this situation completely. Don't contact me again after today." "Jai, please." Her voice had broken into pieces. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face as one hand moved protectively to her still flat stomach. "I love you so much. We can figure this out together. We can make it work somehow. Please don't do this to us. I don't love you enough to sacrifice my future for this mistake we made." He'd stood up from the table, grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair, headed for the door without looking back at her crumbling expression. "Take the money. It's more than generous. It's more than most men would give in this situation. Don't leave me." She'd been sobbing now, standing up from the table, reaching for him with desperate hands that grasped at nothing but air. "Please don't leave us. I'm begging you. Please stay with us." He'd walked out without looking back even once. He'd heard her collapse behind the closed door, heard her crying so hard she couldn't catch her breath properly, heard her call his name one more time with desperate hope in her voice, and he'd kept walking to his car in the parking lot below, drove away from that apartment complex without a backward glance, blocked her number on his phone that same night before she could call and beg, erased her completely from his life like she'd never existed, like they'd never loved each other, like she wasn't carrying his child inside her body at that very moment. 9 years later, Jai Richardson stood in the elegant courtyard of the Belmont Grand Hotel, waiting for a taxi that was taking far too long to arrive on this particular afternoon. He wore a custom suit that cost more than Eniola's entire apartment had been worth back then. His watch was worth more than a decent car. His net worth had 8 figures attached to it, and growing daily through smart investments. He was a success story, the kind of person business magazines wrote glowing profiles about with genuine admiration. Self-made millionaire before 30, tech investor with a supposedly golden touch, philanthropist, according to the carefully crafted press releases his publicity team wrote and distributed to eager media outlets. He was also completely hollow inside, empty in every way that truly mattered to a human being. successful and utterly, devastatingly alone in the world. The Rolls-Royce pulled up to the hotel entrance like something from an impossible dream or expensive movie production. Midnight black, gleaming under the afternoon sun. The kind of vehicle that made everyone in the busy courtyard stop what they were doing and stare with open admiration and envy. The hotel doorman rushed forward eagerly to assist. The professional driver stepped out with practiced precision, walked smoothly around the vehicle, opened the rear door with white-gloved hands. A woman emerged from the back seat like royalty stepping onto a stage. Jai's heart stopped beating completely in his chest. She was absolutely breathtaking, devastating in her beauty and power. Designer suit that fit like it had been custom-made specifically for her body, which it probably had been. Hair styled perfectly in elegant waves, makeup subtle and clearly expensive and professionally applied. She moved with the kind of genuine confidence that came from real power and success, from knowing exactly who she was and what she was worth in this world. Diamond earrings caught the afternoon light and sparkled brilliantly. Her heels were red-soled Louboutins that clicked on the stone. Her handbag was leather that probably cost several $1,000s without anyone blinking. But it was her face that destroyed him completely and utterly. Eniola. The struggling nursing student with perpetually tired eyes and second-hand clothes from thrift stores had become this, a woman who looked like she owned the entire world and everyone in it. Then a little girl stepped out of the car behind her, and Jai forgot how to breathe properly or think clearly. The child was 9 years old, beautiful and poised beyond her years, wearing a designer dress that matched her mother's elegant aesthetic perfectly. She had Eniola's graceful smile and natural confidence and presence, but her eyes were exactly Jai's, precisely his. The same unusual light brown color, the same distinctive almond shape, like looking in a mirror that showed him who he could have been if he'd been a better man who made better choices. His daughter. The reality hit him like a devastating physical blow to the chest that knocked all the air from his lungs completely. That was his child, his flesh and blood, the baby he'd told Eniola to get rid of without a second thought. The pregnancy he'd walked away from like it meant nothing at all. She was real, alive, standing just 10 feet away from him in the courtyard, holding her mother's hand trustingly. Tears started streaming down his face before he could stop them or control the overwhelming emotion flooding through him. He tried to take a step forward, tried to speak, tried to say something, anything at all, but nothing came out of his frozen throat. His mouth opened and closed uselessly like a fish drowning in air. The little girl noticed him first, her curious, intelligent eyes finding his tear-stained face across the courtyard. She tugged gently on Eniola's sleeve with her small hand. "Mummy, why is that man crying?" Eniola's eyes found his across the crowded courtyard. For one eternal moment, everything stopped completely. The courtyard, the hotel, the other guests, the entire world itself. It all disappeared except for the two of them, and the 9 years of absence and abandonment stretched between them like an unbridgeable chasm. Her expression was pure ice, absolute ice that could freeze a man's soul permanently. "He's nobody, darling," Eniola said, her voice carrying across the distance between them like a blade specifically designed to cut deep. "Come along now." She took her daughter's hand firmly and walked toward the hotel entrance with purposeful strides. She didn't look back at him even once. She didn't pause or hesitate for even a moment. She moved past Jai like he was completely invisible, like he was nothing, like he didn't exist, like he'd never existed at all in her world. The little girl, his daughter, his own flesh and blood, glanced over her shoulder at him once, curious about the crying stranger in the expensive suit, before her mother guided her gently but firmly through the glass doors and into the hotel lobby beyond. Jai stood frozen in the courtyard like a statue, tears running unchecked down his face, his whole body shaking with emotion he couldn't name or control. Hotel guests were staring at him now, whispering to each other behind their hands, wondering what was wrong with this well-dressed man crying openly in public like this. The doorman approached cautiously and asked if he was all right, if he needed any kind of assistance. His taxi finally pulled up to the curb, and the impatient driver honked the horn loudly to get his attention. He couldn't move a single muscle, couldn't breathe properly, couldn't process what he'd just seen with his own eyes. Eniola had succeeded beyond measure, without him, in spite of him, despite everything he'd done to her 9 years ago. She'd raised their daughter completely alone, built a substantial fortune from absolutely nothing, become the kind of powerful woman who arrived at luxury hotels in Rolls-Royces while he stood in courtyards crying like a broken man who'd lost everything that truly mattered in life. Because that's exactly what he was. Broken, shattered beyond repair. He had money and success and everything he'd sacrificed her for 9 years ago, and absolutely none of it meant anything at all. None of it filled the gaping emptiness where his family should have been all along. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. A message from his assistant about the important meeting he was supposed to be heading to right now. The investment deal worth several $1 million, the glittering future he'd built by walking away from Eniola and their unborn child 9 years ago. Jai looked at the hotel entrance where they'd disappeared from his view. Then he looked down at his phone screen. Then back at the hotel entrance. For the first time in 9 long years, he made the right choice instead of the selfish one. He cancelled the meeting with a brief text message, cancelled everything on his packed calendar, walked into the hotel lobby on shaking legs and asked the front desk clerk a simple question that would change absolutely everything. The woman who just checked in, the one with the little girl, can you tell me her name? The desk clerk looked uncertain, professionally trained not to give out confidential guest information to strangers. Sir, I'm not permitted to give out guest information. Please! Jai's voice broke completely, shattered. Please, I just need to know her name. It's extremely important. Maybe something in his desperate face convinced her. Maybe she saw the raw pain in his eyes. Maybe she was just a kind person who recognized genuine human need when she saw it standing in front of her. Miss Crabbe, she said quietly, glancing around to make sure her manager wasn't watching this exchange. Miss Eniola Crabbe. She's staying in the penthouse suite for the week with her daughter. Jai thanked her with genuine gratitude and walked to the elevator bank, rode it to the top floor with his heart pounding violently in his chest, stood outside the penthouse door for 20 full minutes, hand raised to knock, completely unable to do it. What could he possibly say? What words existed in any language that could bridge 9 years of abandonment and pain? He lowered his hand slowly, turned away from the door, rode the elevator back down to the lobby, feeling defeated. But he didn't leave the hotel like he should have. He checked into a room on the floor below the penthouse, cancelled his flight home, cleared his entire calendar for the foreseeable future. Because Eniola was here. His daughter was here. And for the first time since he'd walked out of that tiny apartment 9 years ago, Jai Richardson was going to do the right thing, even if it destroyed him completely, even if she never forgave him, even if his daughter never called him father. He was going to try to make this right. Chapter 2. The cost of everything. Jai didn't sleep that night in his hotel room. He couldn't. Sleep was completely impossible. He sat in the darkness with his laptop open, searching desperately for everything he could find about Eniola Crabbe and the extraordinary life she'd built without him over these 9 years. What he discovered made him physically sick with overwhelming shame and regret. She'd finished nursing school while pregnant with their daughter. The articles and interviews mentioned it casually, like it was some minor impressive detail worth noting, but Jai could vividly imagine what that had really meant for her. Studying for difficult exams while dealing with severe morning sickness that made her miserable. Clinical rotations in hospitals while her body changed and grew uncomfortably. Finals while 9 months pregnant and terrified about the future looming ahead. After their daughter was born, she'd worked 3 different jobs simultaneously to support them both and keep a roof over their heads. Overnight shifts as a hospital nurse, coming home exhausted. Weekend shifts at a busy medical clinic when other people were relaxing. Freelance medical transcription work during whatever hours remained in the day. She'd lived in a one-bedroom apartment in a rough neighborhood where the baby had slept in a converted dresser drawer because Eniola couldn't afford to buy a proper crib on her meager combined wages. She'd been completely alone through absolutely all of it. No family support system to help her, no partner to share the crushing burden. Just her and a helpless baby, surviving day by desperate day, while Jai had been celebrating his first successful funding rounds and building his company with the freedom she'd begged him not to throw away so carelessly. Then, according to a detailed profile in a tech industry magazine he found, when their daughter was 2 years old, Eniola had invented something genuinely revolutionary that changed healthcare. A patient care software system that completely revolutionized how hospitals tracked medication administration and treatment plans, reducing dangerous errors and saving countless lives across the country. She'd built the entire complex system on a second-hand laptop she'd bought for $50 at a pawn shop, coding with one hand during her daughter's brief nap times while rocking a crying baby with the other hand when she fussed. The software had caught the attention of a major healthcare technology company. They'd offered to buy it for an amount the article described as substantial, but didn't specify exactly. Eniola had taken that money and started her own company, Crab Medical Solutions. Within 5 years, she'd built it into an empire that employed people and saved lives. Now she was worth $50 million according to the most recent estimates he could find. She employed hundreds of people across multiple countries. She'd been featured in Forbes, in Time magazine, in every major business publication as the ultimate self-made success story that inspired others. Every single article mentioned she was a single mother raising her daughter alone. None of them mentioned Jai's name or existence anywhere. He'd been completely erased from her narrative, written out of the story entirely, which is exactly what he deserved for what he'd done to her. He found photographs of her at charity galas and business conferences, always alone or with their daughter beside her looking proud. No husband visible anywhere, no partner holding her hand, no one supporting her. She'd done absolutely everything by herself through sheer determination. Then, deep in his searching, he found the obituary that made him break down completely. Eniola's mother had died 2 years ago, breast cancer that had spread before they caught it. The funeral notice listed Eniola and her daughter as the only surviving family members. Jai put his head in his hands at his hotel room desk and wept like a child. Eniola had lost her mother, the only family she'd had in the world, and she'd gone through that devastating grief entirely alone, because Jai hadn't been there to support her through it, because he'd abandoned her 9 years earlier and never looked back. At midnight, still searching obsessively through every page he could find, he discovered why they were at the hotel this particular week. Eniola's daughter had a birthday coming up in 2 days. She was turning 9 years old. They were staying at the hotel for a birthday weekend celebration, just the two of them, because Eniola made absolutely sure her daughter had everything beautiful, even though she herself had no one to share her life with or celebrate her own successes. Jai looked at photographs of his daughter that he found online, candid shots from Eniola's carefully private social media accounts that she rarely updated. The girl was beautiful beyond words, smart, according to the captions Eniola wrote with obvious maternal pride, top of her class academically, loved science and reading and astronomy, wanted to be a doctor like her mother had once trained to be before circumstances changed everything for her. His daughter, Kerry. That was her name. Kerry Crab. She didn't have his last name. She had Eniola's surname only, because he'd given up any right to be her father the moment he'd walked out of that apartment and blocked Eniola's desperate phone calls, begging him to reconsider. At 3 in the morning, exhausted but unable to sleep even for a moment, Jai made a decision that felt simultaneously terrifying and necessary. He couldn't undo the past no matter how desperately he wished he could. Couldn't take back the abandonment. Couldn't erase 9 years of pain and absence. But he could try to be better now in the present. He could try to prove he'd changed, even though he probably hadn't really, even though he was probably still the same selfish coward who'd chosen ambition over love and family without hesitation. But he had to try. He owed them that much at the very least. The next morning, operating on no sleep and pure desperate determination, he waited in the hotel lobby starting at 8 o'clock. At 9 o'clock exactly, Eniola and Kerry came down for breakfast. Kerry wore a cheerful yellow dress and carried a thick book about astronomy under her small arm. Eniola wore casual clothes that still somehow looked expensive and elegant, her hand positioned protectively on her daughter's shoulder as they walked together through the lobby. Jai stood up from where he'd been waiting anxiously for over an hour, took 3 shaking steps toward them across the marble floor. Eniola saw him immediately. Her expression didn't change at all, but her hand visibly tightened on Kerry's shoulder in an unmistakable protective gesture. "Miss Crabbe," Jai said, his voice shaking badly, "please, I just need to talk to you for—" "You have 5 seconds to walk away from us," Eniola said with perfect calm, "or I will call security and have you removed from this hotel immediately." Kerry looked up at her mother with confused eyes. "Mummy, what's wrong? Who is this man?" "Nothing's wrong, darling." Eniola's voice was gentle and warm with her daughter, pure ice, when she looked back at Jai standing there desperately. "This man was just leaving. He made a mistake approaching us." "Please," Jai tried again, desperation making him bold enough to keep trying. "I know I don't deserve anything from you, but 4 seconds remaining." Kerry was staring at him now with those eyes that were exactly like his own, studying him carefully. "Mummy, why is he crying again? Is he the same man from yesterday in the courtyard?" Again. She remembered him from the courtyard encounter. His daughter remembered the crying stranger. "Yes, darling, because he's sad about choices he made long ago," Eniola said, still looking directly at Jai with those cold, emotionless eyes. "And his sadness is entirely his own fault. Come along, Kerry. Let's have our breakfast now." "Wait." Jai reached out instinctively, not to touch them, but just to stop them from walking away before he could explain. "Please, Eniola, I just want to talk for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of your time. Please hear me out." Eniola finally stopped walking, turned fully to face him. When she spoke, her voice was quiet enough that Kerry, standing beside her, couldn't hear the words, but sharp enough to cut Jai to pieces. "You want to talk? You want 5 minutes of my time? You had 9 years to want those things. 9 years while I was pregnant and terrified and completely alone. 9 years while I gave birth without anyone holding my hand through the pain. 9 years while our daughter asked me why she didn't have a daddy like the other children at school, and I had to lie to her sweet face and say, you had died, so she wouldn't feel abandoned and unwanted by her own father. You don't get 5 minutes now. You don't get anything from me. Move out of our way." Kerry tugged her mother's hand urgently. "Mummy, is he the bad man you told me about?" Jai's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces inside his chest. His daughter already knew somehow. Even without knowing who he was to her, she knew he was bad. "Yes, darling," Eniola said, never taking her eyes off Jai's devastated face. "He is exactly that man I told you about." She walked past him with Kerry's hand held firmly in hers and headed toward the hotel restaurant without looking back. Jai stood there alone in the lobby, completely destroyed, while other hotel guests stared and whispered about the uncomfortable scene they'd just witnessed. He went back to his room, feeling hollow and broken, sat on the edge of the bed, looked at his phone full of urgent messages from his assistant, his business partners, his so-called friends who only cared about his money and connections and what he could do for them. None of it mattered anymore. None of it had ever really mattered. He'd traded everything real and meaningful for nothing that would last beyond his own lifetime. That afternoon he started making phone calls, cancelled all his investor meetings for the month, cleared his calendar completely. His business partners were absolutely furious with him for abandoning commitments. He didn't care even slightly. His primary business partner called back within the hour, voice tight with barely controlled anger. You can't just abandon your commitments like this, Jai. You signed legally binding contracts with us. We have major deals closing that absolutely need your expertise and participation. You'll have to handle them without me. If you walk away from this company, we'll sue you for breach of contract. We'll sue you for everything you have. You'll lose everything you've built over the past decade. Jai looked around his luxury hotel room, thought about Eniola and Kerry just floors above him. Then sue me. He hung up on the protests. They did sue. Within a week, legal papers arrived via courier, breach of contract, fiduciary duty violations. They wanted everything he had built. Jai didn't fight it even slightly. Signed settlement agreements without reading them carefully, watched his accounts drain rapidly over the following weeks. Legal fees, penalties, settlements to investors. His fortune evaporated over 2 months. The penthouse went to creditors, the luxury car, the investment portfolio, the watch collection, everything of value he'd accumulated. Within 2 months, he was genuinely broke. Actually broke for the first time since his early 20s. $1,100 to his name. Everything else gone to pay what he owed. He had nothing material left. And he felt lighter than he had in years. Because that little girl in the yellow dress deserved a father who would sacrifice everything for her, and Eniola deserved someone who would stay no matter what it cost, even if he had to lose everything to prove it to them. Chapter 3. The Impossible Test. Jai spent the entire next day researching and planning carefully. He discovered that Kerry's birthday party was planned for the hotel's rooftop garden tomorrow afternoon. Private event according to the hotel staff, he carefully questioned without revealing too much. Just Eniola and Kerry celebrating together, because Eniola didn't trust easily after what she'd been through and kept their personal life carefully protected from the world and prying eyes. He didn't even consider crashing the party for a moment. That would be selfish, would make Kerry's special day about him and his guilt instead of about her and celebrating her life. Instead, he made strategic phone calls and did thorough research into what would actually help. He found out that Eniola volunteered regularly at St. Catherine's Children's Hospital every month, bringing medical supplies the hospital couldn't afford and reading to sick children who had no visitors to brighten their days. Jai contacted the hospital administration directly with a proposal, made an anonymous donation. His last $200,000 before the lawyers took absolutely everything else he had, specifically for new pediatric equipment that the hospital desperately needed but couldn't afford in their tight budget. He requested the equipment be delivered during Eniola's next scheduled visit with a simple card attached that said only, "For the children who deserve better than I gave my own child." He sent flowers to Eniola's penthouse suite. Not roses, which would have been inappropriate and romantic and completely tone-deaf. Simple daisies, which he'd learned were Kerry's favorite flower, according to a photo caption he'd found during his research the night before. The note he included read, "I don't deserve forgiveness from either of you. I don't deserve a conversation or your time or your attention, but Kerry deserves to know her father wanted to become better than he was. If you'll let me prove it through my actions instead of empty words, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn that chance." He didn't expect any response to any of this. Didn't expect anything at all, really. At midnight, his phone rang unexpectedly. Unknown number displayed on the screen. "Lobby, right now." Eniola's voice, sharp and commanding. Then she hung up immediately without waiting for his response. Jai was downstairs in 90 seconds, still wearing the sweatpants and t-shirt he'd been sitting in. His hair was a complete mess. He looked desperate and pathetic, which he absolutely was. Eniola stood near the lobby fireplace, wearing a hotel bathrobe over pajamas. Even in sleepwear, she somehow looked powerful and in complete control of everything around her. Her arms were crossed defensively over her chest. Her expression was completely unreadable. "You sent medical equipment worth $200,000 to the hospital," she said without any preamble or greeting. "Yes, I did. You sent Kerry's favorite flowers to our room." "Yes. You claim you want to prove you've changed into a better person." "Yes. More than anything in the world." Eniola laughed, but the sound was bitter and painful to hear. "You have absolutely no idea what you're asking for. No idea whatsoever what proving it actually means or requires from you." Then tell me. Jai took a careful step closer to her. Tell me exactly what I need to do. Anything at all. I'll do absolutely anything you ask of me. Anything. Eniola's eyes were hard as diamonds. When I was pregnant and terrified 9 years ago, I asked you for anything. Stay with me. Help me raise our child. Love me the way you claim to love me. You gave me $5,000 in cash and walked away forever without looking back. Your word anything means absolutely nothing to me. I know that. Jai's voice broke with emotion. I know I destroyed everything between us. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness or trust or even basic respect from you. Stop talking! Eniola held up one hand sharply. I don't want your apologies or your explanations or your excuses. Apologies are just empty words, and your words 9 years ago destroyed my entire life and nearly destroyed me. If you want anything from me, not forgiveness, because you will never, ever have that from me. But if you want even the smallest chance to know Kerry before she grows up hating you completely, you'll prove through actions that you've actually changed as a human being. How? Please tell me how I can prove it to you. Eniola was quiet for a long, heavy moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady and cold as ice. Disappear completely from Kerry's life for 6 full months. Jai felt like she'd physically punched him hard in the stomach. What? You want me to leave? You heard me perfectly. Go away from here. Go back to your regular life. Build something that actually matters to the world, not another profitable company, not more money in your bank account. Do something real that helps people the way you should have helped us 9 years ago when we needed you. Volunteer your time and energy. Work with children who desperately need father figures in their lives. Donate your time and energy, not just your money. Prove to me and yourself that you can think about someone other than yourself for 6 months without any reward. Without any recognition, without getting a single thing in return for your efforts. You're asking me to leave Kerry, to go away from both of you? I'm asking you to prove you've actually changed as a human being, Eniola said firmly. Kerry doesn't need a father who just wants to fix his own guilt and feel better about himself. She needs a father who's genuinely capable of putting her needs first, ahead of his own wants and desires and guilt. Right now, you being here confuses her. You being here is entirely about what you want from us, not what she actually needs from you. So prove it to me. Prove you can sacrifice what you desperately want for what's actually right for her well-being. Jai stared at her, understanding slowly dawning on him. She was testing him. Testing whether he could do the hard thing, the truly selfless thing, instead of the easy, selfish thing he'd always done before in his life. If I do this, he said slowly and carefully, if I stay completely away for 6 months and do everything you're asking, will you let me meet her properly? Really meet her as her father? If you actually do it successfully, Eniola said, if you genuinely prove you can put someone else first for 6 consecutive months, we'll have a conversation about next steps. That's all I'm promising you right now, a conversation, nothing more than that. And if I refuse your test, if I say I want to meet Kerry now, today, immediately, Eniola's expression didn't change at all. Then I'll get a restraining order against you immediately. I'll make absolutely sure you never see either of us again for the rest of your life. I have excellent lawyers, Jai, expensive ones who win cases. I have money and power and complete moral high ground in this situation. You abandoned your pregnant girlfriend and your daughter. No court anywhere will side with you over me in any dispute. She was completely right about all of it. He had no legal standing whatsoever, no moral standing, nothing to stand on. 6 months, he said quietly, letting it sink in fully. I stay completely away from you and Kerry for 6 full months. I volunteer helping others. I help people who genuinely need it. I prove I can be genuinely selfless instead of selfish. Yes, exactly that. And then you'll let me try to be her father? I'll let you try to earn that right, Eniola corrected sharply. Being a father isn't something you just automatically get because of biology and genetics. It's something you earn through your actions every single day of your life. Jai nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face again, but he didn't bother wiping them away this time. Okay, he whispered. Okay. I'll do it. I'll prove it to you. Eniola studied him for a long, searching moment. I don't believe you'll actually follow through with this. I think you'll last maybe 2 weeks before you give up and go back to your comfortable life. I think you're still fundamentally the same selfish man who walked away from his responsibilities 9 years ago. But I'm giving you this one chance because Kerry saw you crying in the courtyard and asked me questions about you, because she's a genuinely kind child with a good heart, and kind children naturally wonder about sad people they see. I'm doing this entirely for her benefit, not for yours at all. I understand completely. Do you really? Eniola's voice turned razor sharp. Do you understand that I will never forgive you for what you did to us? Do you understand that even if you do this perfectly, even if you prove you've changed, the very best you'll ever get from me is basic tolerance of your presence? Do you understand that I loved you once with my whole heart, and you killed that love completely and permanently when you walked out that door? Each word was a knife, stabbing into him repeatedly. Jai took them all without flinching. I understand, he said. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just want the chance to give Kerry what I should have given her from the very beginning. A father who stays, a father who shows up, a father who loves her unconditionally. Eniola turned to leave, then paused with her hand on the elevator button. The medical equipment donation, the flowers. Don't do things like that for me or to impress me or manipulate me. Don't try to buy your way back into our lives with money. If you're going to genuinely change as a person, change because it's the right thing to do, not because it gets you something you want in return. The donation wasn't for you, Jai said quietly but firmly. It was for the children in that hospital. Children who deserve better care than I gave my own daughter. Something flickered briefly in Eniola's eyes. Not forgiveness, not softness or warmth, but maybe, just possibly, a tiny crack in the thick wall of ice. 6 months, she said, starting right now this moment. Don't contact me. Don't contact Kerry. Don't show up at places you think we might be. Disappear completely from our lives and prove you're capable of thinking about someone other than yourself for once. Then she walked away to the elevator, back to their penthouse suite, back to the daughter he'd thrown away 9 years ago. Jai stood completely alone in the empty hotel lobby and made himself a solemn promise. 6 months. He would do this. He would prove he'd genuinely changed as a person, and then, maybe, he could start earning the right to be Kerry's father. Chapter 4. The Disappearance. Jai left the hotel early the next morning without trying to see them one more time. He flew home to his city, feeling hollow and determined simultaneously. Walked into his massive penthouse apartment, except it wasn't his anymore at all. The creditors had already seized it during the lawsuit settlement. His belongings were packed in cardboard boxes in the hallway. A legal notice on the door informed him he had 24 hours to remove his personal items before they'd be disposed of. He had $1,100 to his name, everything else gone to lawsuits and settlements and legal fees. Perfect. He packed what little remained that he actually cared about into 2 suitcases, donated most of his expensive clothes to charity organizations, kept only practical items he'd actually need. He moved to a completely different city where nobody knew him or his reputation or his past. Found a room in a boarding house that rented by the week, $80 a week. Shared bathroom down the hall. Thin walls where he could hear his neighbors arguing and living their lives. Normal people living normal lives without millions in the bank. He got a job washing dishes at an all-night diner on the edge of town, minimum wage, night shifts that started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. His hands bled from the scalding hot water and harsh industrial soap within the first week. His back ached constantly from standing for 8 hours straight without breaks. He came home at dawn, smelling like grease and desperation and other people's leftover food. It was the most honest work he'd done in years, maybe ever. During the day, when he should have been sleeping to recover, he volunteered instead. St. Joseph's Children's Hospital desperately needed volunteers for their pediatric ward. Jai applied and went through extensive background checks and training over several weeks. Started showing up 3 full days every week to read to sick children who had no one else. The very first day destroyed him emotionally. He met a little girl named Zara who was 7 years old and fighting leukemia that was winning. She had no hair from the harsh chemotherapy treatments, and she was so painfully small and fragile in her hospital bed, hooked up to machines. Her exhausted mother sat beside her looking terrified and utterly alone in the world. Jai read Zara a book about dragons and brave princesses who saved kingdoms. She fell asleep halfway through the story, her small hand holding his finger tightly like she was afraid he'd leave. The mother looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "Thank you so much for being here. Her father left when she got diagnosed 6 months ago, said he couldn't handle watching her suffer like this. It's just me now raising her alone and watching her fight for her life." Jai felt physically sick hearing that. "I'm so incredibly sorry you're going through this alone. People leave when things get hard and scary," the mother said quietly, staring at her sleeping daughter with love and fear mixed together. "When situations get difficult and scary, people just leave instead of staying to help." Jai kept coming back to that hospital every single week without fail. Read to Zara regularly, brought her new books about subjects she loved, sat with her exhausted mother when the treatments were particularly brutal, and just listened while she talked about her fears for her daughter's future and survival. He met other children during his volunteer shifts over the months. Jaden, who had a rare and serious heart condition that required multiple surgeries. Amara, still recovering slowly from a terrible car accident that had changed her life forever. Lucas, born with cerebral palsy and facing a lifetime of challenges ahead. Children who desperately needed people to show up for them consistently, to care about them genuinely, to stay even when things were difficult and heartbreaking. Jai showed up for all of them, every single week, without fail, rain or shine or exhaustion. He also started volunteering at a community center that specifically helped single mothers trying to survive. He didn't counsel them or try to fix their complicated lives with advice. He just did whatever practical things they needed done. Watched their children while they went to important job interviews that could change their circumstances. Fixed broken playground equipment with borrowed tools. Organized donated clothes and supplies in the storage room so mothers could find what they needed. One mother at the center, Diana, asked him directly why he was volunteering there. "Most men don't volunteer at places like this that help single mothers. They think it's not their problem." "I owe a debt," Jai said simply and honestly, "to someone I hurt very badly. This volunteer work doesn't repay that debt, but maybe it helps someone else who desperately needs it." Diana nodded with understanding in her eyes. "The someone you hurt, did they leave you because of what you did to them?" "No," Jai said quietly. "I left them when they needed me most, and it was the worst thing I ever did in my entire life." He didn't tell anyone at the hospital or community center about Eniola or Kerry or his past. Didn't post about his volunteer work on any social media platforms to get recognition. Didn't seek credit or recognition or praise from anyone for what he was doing. He just showed up consistently, day after day, week after week, month after grinding month. At night, alone in his small rented room with thin walls, he wrote letters he knew he'd never send to anyone. "Dear Kerry, today I met a little girl at the hospital who reminded me so much of you even though I've never met you properly. She was incredibly brave, even though she was obviously scared about what's happening to her. I wonder constantly if you're brave like that. I wonder what you're learning in school, what books you're reading, what makes you laugh out loud. I wonder if you ever think about the crying man from the hotel, or if you've already forgotten me completely. I hope you have forgotten me. I hope your mother protects you from knowing the full truth of what I did to both of you. You deserve so much better than knowing who I really am and what I did." He wrote hundreds of letters over the months that passed, filled entire notebooks with words for a daughter who would never read them. One day, a social worker at the hospital asked him to join the bone marrow registry. A desperately ill child needed a transplant urgently, and they were testing every possible donor they could find. Jai agreed immediately without hesitation, went through all the testing procedures. He wasn't a match for that particular child, but his information went into the national database for future potential matches. 2 months into his 6-month commitment to Eniola, he received an unexpected call. He was a perfect match for a 7-year-old boy named Thomas, who desperately needed a bone marrow transplant to survive. Did he want to donate and potentially save this child's life? The donation process was genuinely painful. Extraction directly from the hip bone under anesthesia, significant recovery time needed, extensive bruising and soreness that lasted for weeks afterward. He had to miss shifts at the diner, losing money he desperately needed for rent. Jai did it without a single moment of hesitation or regret. When the procedure was finally over, the doctor told him seriously that he'd saved Thomas's life with his donation. Jai went home to his small room and cried for hours. He'd saved one child's life, but he'd completely abandoned his own daughter for 9 years. The irony was absolutely devastating and painful. He kept going regardless of the pain, kept volunteering at the hospital, kept showing up at the community center, kept washing dishes at the diner through the nights. He lived on only a small fraction of what he earned, which wasn't much to begin with on minimum wage. What little money he had went to cheap rent and basic food. No luxuries, no comforts, no extras. At 4 months into his commitment, Zara went into complete remission from her leukemia against the odds. Her mother hugged Jai tightly and cried with overwhelming joy and relief. "You were here for all of it. Every single treatment, every bad day when I thought I'd lose her forever. Thank you so much for being here when no one else was." Jai thought painfully about Eniola going through her pregnancy completely alone. Thought about her raising Kerry alone through every illness and challenge and fear. Thought about every single bad day she'd faced without anyone to help or support her through it. At 5 months, he helped Diana from the community center get a stable job that could support her family. She'd been struggling desperately, raising 2 young kids alone after her husband abandoned them for another woman. Jai connected her with a good employer who was willing to give her a chance, wrote a strong recommendation letter highlighting her strengths, helped arrange reliable childcare during her training period so she could focus. "Why are you helping me like this?" she asked with genuine confusion. "You don't even really know me at all." "Because someone needed my help desperately 9 years ago, and I didn't give it to them when they needed me most," Jai said honestly. "I can't fix that terrible mistake I made, but I can try to be better now in the present." At exactly 6 months to the day, Jai looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. He'd lost noticeable weight from stress and long volunteer shifts and not eating enough, had dark circles under his eyes from chronic exhaustion. His expensive clothes were long gone, replaced with simple jeans and t-shirts from discount stores. He looked tired, worn down, completely different from the man he'd been 6 months ago. He felt different too, deep inside where it mattered. Something fundamental inside him had changed, not completely, not enough to erase what he'd done or who he'd been, but enough to maybe, possibly be worthy of trying to be better going forward. He pulled out his phone, called the number he'd saved 6 months ago but had never once used during his commitment. Eniola answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello? I did exactly what you asked of me," Jai said quietly but clearly. "I stayed completely away from you and Kerry for 6 full months. I worked at St. Joseph's Children's Hospital volunteering with sick kids. I donated bone marrow to a child who desperately needed it to survive. I helped single mothers at community centers. I lived in a tiny boarding house washing dishes for minimum wage to survive. I didn't post about any of it on social media, didn't seek any credit or recognition from anyone. I just did the work you asked me to do." Silence on the other end of the line. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness," Jai continued carefully. "I'm asking for a chance to meet my daughter properly, to try to be her father in whatever way you'll allow. Please give me that chance." More heavy silence that stretched. Then, "Come to London," Eniola said, "this weekend. I'll text you our address." She hung up without saying anything else. Jai immediately booked the cheapest flight he could find, packed his single worn bag, used the last of his money for the ticket, prepared himself to meet his daughter for real. Chapter 5. The return London was cold and grey when Jai's plane landed early in the morning. He took a bus to save money instead of a taxi, then walked the last few blocks to the address Eniola had texted to him. A charming townhouse in a quiet residential neighborhood, nothing like the massive penthouse he'd imagined her living in based on her wealth. The house looked warm and genuinely lived in from the outside, colorful flower boxes in the windows, a child's bicycle on the front porch, a real home where people lived and loved, not just an expensive house to show off wealth. Jai stood on the sidewalk for 10 full minutes, gathering his courage and trying to calm his racing heart that felt like it might burst. Finally, he forced himself to walk up the front steps, knocked firmly on the door. Quick footsteps inside, the door swung open. Kerry stood right there in front of him. She was so much more real than photographs could ever capture. 9 years old, wearing comfortable jeans and a sweater with a dinosaur design on it. Her hair was styled in 2 neat braids. She wore glasses now that made her look even smarter. Her eyes, his exact eyes, studied him carefully and thoughtfully. "You're the man from the hotel," she said with certainty. "The one who was crying in the courtyard." Jai's throat completely closed up. He couldn't speak or breathe properly. Kerry called over her shoulder into the house. "Mummy, he's here now." Eniola appeared behind her daughter in the doorway. She looked different here too, more relaxed somehow, softer around the edges. This was her real life, not the powerful CEO persona she showed the business world. This was her at home with her daughter. "Kerry," Eniola said gently, placing a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder, "this is Jai Richardson. He's your biological father." Kerry's expression changed instantly, hardened noticeably. She looked him up and down carefully, this man she'd been told was dead for most of her young life, then told was bad, now being introduced as her father. "You're my dad." Her voice was completely flat and emotionless. Jai knelt down slowly so they were at eye level with each other. "Yes, and I'm so sorry, Kerry, for everything." "Sorry for what specifically?" "For leaving your mother when she was pregnant with you. For not being there when you were born. For missing every birthday and every day of your life. For everything I should have done and didn't do." Kerry stared at him intensely. Then, in a voice far too mature and cold for a 9-year-old child, she said precisely, "Sorry doesn't fix what you did to us." She turned sharply and walked back into the house, leaving Jai kneeling alone on the doorstep. Eniola sighed deeply. She's been practicing that exact line for weeks. She's very prepared for this moment. "Come inside." The house was beautiful inside in a warm, lived-in way. Photographs everywhere on every wall. Kerry as a tiny baby, as a smiling toddler, at various school events, at birthday parties with friends. A whole complete life that Jai had missed entirely, captured in frames. Kerry sat on the living room couch with her arms crossed defensively, glaring at him with open hostility. Eniola gestured for Jai to sit in the chair across from Kerry. "Kerry wanted to meet you today, against my strong advice, but she insisted on it." "I can speak for myself perfectly well," Kerry said sharply to her mother. "I wanted to see if you were actually real, if you were genuinely sorry, or if Mummy was right that you just feel guilty and want to feel better about yourself." Jai looked at this small, fierce, brilliant girl who was his daughter. "I do feel guilty. I absolutely should feel guilty. What I did to you and your mother was completely unforgivable." "Then why are you here?" "Because even though I don't deserve it, I want to try to be your father, if you'll let me try." Kerry studied him with those intelligent eyes. "Mummy said you left when she told you she was pregnant. You didn't want me to exist." "That's completely true." "She said you gave her money and walked away and never came back. That's also completely true. She said she cried for weeks and you never answered her calls or messages." Jai looked over at Eniola. She was watching this exchange with careful, protective eyes, ready to intervene if Kerry needed her. "All of that is true," Jai said quietly to Kerry. "I was selfish and scared, and I made the worst choice I possibly could have made. I hurt your mother terribly. I hurt you before you were even born. I'm so sorry, Kerry. Kerry's eyes filled with tears that she angrily tried to blink away. I used to ask Mummy constantly why I didn't have a dad like other kids. She told me you had died. I believed her completely until I was 7 years old. Then she sat me down and told me the real truth, that you were alive and you just didn't want us. Kerry! Eniola started to intervene. No, Mum, I need to say this to him. Kerry wiped her eyes angrily with the back of her hand. I cried when she told me the truth. I cried for days because my dad was actually alive somewhere and he just didn't want me. Do you have any idea what that feels like? What it's like to know your own father chose not to be in your life? Jai was crying too now, tears streaming down his face. I can't imagine how painful that must have been for you. I'm so sorry. Everyone at my school has dads. They have dads who come to school plays and sports days and pick them up after school. I have Mum, and Mum is absolutely amazing and I love her more than anything, but I always wondered why you didn't want me. What was wrong with me that made you leave? Nothing, Jai said firmly and clearly. Nothing was wrong with you at all. Everything was wrong with me. I was the problem, not you. You are perfect. Kerry stood up abruptly. You can't just show up now after 9 years and be my dad like nothing happened. You can't just say sorry and make everything okay. I know that. I don't even know you at all. I know. And I don't think I want to know you. That hurt worse than anything else possibly could. But Jai nodded with understanding. That's completely your choice to make, and I respect it. Kerry looked genuinely surprised that he agreed instead of arguing with her. She'd clearly expected him to push or demand or try to force a relationship. But, Jai added quietly and carefully, if you ever change your mind, even a little bit, I'll be here. I'll wait as long as it takes, and I'll prove to you through my actions that I've changed, even if you never forgive me. Kerry stared at him for a long, searching moment. Then she ran upstairs quickly. They heard a door slam shut hard. Eniola stood up from where she'd been sitting. That actually went better than I expected it would. She hates me. She's angry. There's a significant difference between hate and anger. Eniola walked to the window and looked out. I've been tracking what you did during the 6 months. I had a private investigator follow you and report back to me. Jai wasn't surprised at all by this revelation. And what did they report? You actually did everything you promised. The hospital volunteering, the bone marrow donation, the community center work. You lost everything to lawsuits, living in a boarding house washing dishes for minimum wage to survive. I said I would do it. People say lots of things they don't mean. Eniola turned to face him directly. I genuinely didn't think you'd last 6 weeks before giving up and going back to your life. I thought you'd quit when it got hard, but you didn't. I couldn't quit. This was too important to me. Eniola studied him carefully. You're different somehow. Something fundamental in you is different from before. I hope so. I'm trying to be. They stood in heavy silence for a moment. You can stay in London for 2 weeks, Eniola said finally. I'm not promising Kerry will come around or accept you. I'm not promising anything except that you can be here in the same city as your daughter, and we'll see what happens naturally. Thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you or your benefit. I'm doing it because Kerry asked me questions about you every single day for 6 months. Because she's curious despite her anger, because she deserves the chance to decide for herself if she wants you in her life. I understand completely. Eniola walked him to the front door. There's a hotel 2 blocks from here. Stay there. I'll text you tomorrow about whether Kerry wants to see you again or not. Jai nodded, started to leave, then stopped. Eniola? Yes? You did an absolutely amazing job raising her alone. Kerry is brilliant and strong, and everything good that you are. Thank you for giving her such a good life despite everything I put you through. Eniola's expression softened slightly for just a moment. She's the best thing I ever did with my life. The only thing that truly mattered to me. I know, Jai said quietly. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life regretting that I wasn't there to help you raise her. He left before she could respond to that. Walked to the nearby hotel Eniola had mentioned. Checked in using the last of his money. Sat in his room and waited anxiously. The text came at 8 o'clock that night. Kerry says you can walk her to school tomorrow morning. I'll meet you outside our house at 7:30 sharp. Don't be late. Jai set 3 separate alarms on his phone. He absolutely wouldn't be late. Not ever again. Chapter 6. The wall Kerry built. Kerry didn't speak a single word to Jai the next morning during the walk to school. She walked 3 feet ahead on the sidewalk, with Eniola positioned carefully between them like a protective buffer. When they reached the school gates, Kerry went inside without saying goodbye to either of them. Progress, Eniola said with dry sarcasm. This pattern became their daily routine. Every morning for an entire week, Jai walked Kerry to school. Every morning she completely ignored him. Every afternoon he waited outside the school, and she walked past him to her mother's waiting car without a single word or glance in his direction. On day 8, it rained heavily. Kerry had forgotten her umbrella at home. Jai had brought an extra one specifically for this possibility. Here, he offered gently, walking up beside her with the spare umbrella. Kerry looked at the umbrella, then directly at him with suspicion. I don't need your help with anything. I know you don't. But it's raining pretty hard. Mum will bring the car closer to the entrance. She's stuck in traffic right now. I can see her texting from here trying to get through. Kerry hesitated visibly. The rain was getting heavier by the second, soaking through her jacket. Finally, very reluctantly, she took the umbrella from his hand. They stood together under it while waiting for Eniola's car to arrive. Kerry still didn't speak to him, but she didn't move away either. Small victory. Progress. The next week, Kerry had an important school project due. She needed to build a detailed model of the entire solar system. Eniola was working late at her office, some kind of crisis at her company that needed immediate attention and her personal involvement. Jai was at the house helping prepare dinner when Kerry came downstairs carrying her project supplies, looking frustrated and upset. What's wrong? He asked carefully. Nothing, Kerry said automatically, defensively. Kerry! Eniola's voice came from her home office where she was on an urgent video call. If Jai can help you, let him try. Kerry looked at Jai with deep suspicion. Do you actually know anything about planets and space? I know about failing at things and trying again until you get it right, Jai said honestly, which seems pretty relevant to this situation right now. Kerry almost smiled. Almost. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly. Fine, you can help, but don't mess anything up. They worked together at the kitchen table for over 2 hours. Kerry was incredibly meticulous and perfectionist, just exactly like her mother. She had very specific ideas about how everything should look and be arranged. Jai followed her detailed instructions exactly, handed her supplies when she needed them, held pieces steady while she carefully glued them together, let her lead the entire project completely. After 2 focused hours, the model was finally done. It was genuinely beautiful, scientifically accurate and creatively designed, and exactly what Kerry had envisioned in her mind. She looked at it with obvious satisfaction. It's actually good. It's better than good. It's great, Jai said sincerely. You're really talented at this kind of work. Kerry packed up her remaining supplies carefully and methodically. Thanks for helping, Mr. Richardson. Mr. Richardson, not Dad, but not nothing either. Progress. Any time you need help, Jai said. Kerry started to leave the kitchen, then turned back suddenly. Why did you really leave us? Jai took a deep breath. Because I was scared about being a father, and selfish about my career and what I wanted. I thought having a baby would ruin my life and destroy my plans. Did it ruin your life? Not having you in my life ruined everything, Jai said quietly and honestly. Everything I built without you was completely empty and meaningless. I didn't realize that until it was far too late. Kerry processed this information carefully. Mum says people who leave when things get hard are cowards. She's absolutely right, I was a coward. Are you still a coward now? I'm trying very hard not to be anymore. Kerry nodded slowly, thinking about this, picked up her completed project. I'm going to bed now. Good night, Mr. Richardson. Good night, Kerry. She went upstairs to her room. Jai sat at the kitchen table, feeling something shift inside. Not forgiveness, not acceptance, but maybe the tiniest crack in the defensive wall she'd built. Eniola came out of her home office an hour later, looking completely exhausted. Crisis finally handled. Thanks for helping with Kerry's project. I didn't do much at all. She's brilliant and knew exactly what she wanted. She is brilliant. Eniola sat down heavily across from him. She's also stubborn and angry and deeply hurting inside. I know that. She wants to forgive you. That's what kills me inside. She desperately wants to believe you've actually changed, but she's protecting herself from being hurt again. She absolutely should protect herself from me. She should. Eniola looked exhausted and sad. But I see her watching you when you're not looking, wondering if you're real and genuine, wondering if you'll actually stay this time. I'll stay. I promise you. That's what absolutely everyone says when they want something. Eniola's voice was bitter, until they decide not to stay anymore. Jai wanted desperately to argue, to promise, to swear he was different now, but words meant nothing. Only time and consistent action would prove anything. So he stayed quiet, and he showed up the next day, and the next, and every day after. 2 weeks turned into a month of this routine. Kerry stopped calling him Mr. Richardson, started calling him Jai, still not Dad, but definitely closer. She started asking him questions about his life, about where he lived now, what he did with his time, why he sold his penthouse and gave up everything. He answered with complete honesty, always. I sold it because it was empty and sterile, because I had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered, because I needed to change my entire life completely. Kerry seemed to understand that instinctively. She was smart enough to know that real change required real sacrifice. One day, she asked him to help her practice lines for a school play. She had exactly 3 lines to say. She was nervous about performing in front of people. Jai ran lines with her for over an hour. When Eniola came home from work, Kerry was laughing genuinely at Jai's terrible, overly dramatic reading of the other characters' parts. Eniola stopped in the doorway, watching them together. Something crossed her face, pain and hope and fear, all mixed together in a complicated expression. That night, after Kerry was asleep in her room, Eniola told Jai he could stay in London another full month. She's warming to you gradually, Eniola said, against my better judgment. I won't hurt her again. I swear to you. You can't promise that with certainty. I can try my absolute best every day. Eniola looked at him for a long time. I'm watching you every single day, every moment, waiting for you to slip, to show me you're still the same person underneath. I know you are. I would be too. And if you hurt her even once, you'll destroy me completely. I know that too, and I deserve it if I fail her. Eniola nodded slowly. Don't ever forget it. But something in her voice was slightly softer than before. The ice was melting, degree by careful degree. Real progress. Finally. Chapter 7. The Temptation. 3 months into Jai's time in London, his phone rang early one morning. Unknown number. American area code. Jai, it's Blake. His former business partner, the one who'd sued him and taken everything he had. Jai's heart started pounding hard. What do you want from me? To apologize, and to make you an offer you need to hear. Jai said nothing, waiting for the inevitable catch. We were too harsh with the lawsuits. We shouldn't have taken absolutely everything from you. You built that company with us from nothing. You deserve better than what we did to you. I breached contract. You had every legal right to sue me for everything. Still, we've been talking, the partners and I. We want to make it right. Come back to the company. We'll give you full equity again. Restore what you lost. Full partnership with decision-making authority. You could be back in the game within 6 months. Back on top where you belong. Jai's heart pounded violently in his chest. Everything he'd lost, his fortune, his reputation, his success, all of it offered back to him. There's a catch, isn't there? There's always a catch. You'd need to be in San Francisco full-time, starting next month. We have 3 major deals closing that absolutely need your expertise and participation. There it was, the real condition he'd been waiting for. I'm in London right now. I know exactly where you are. But whatever you're doing there, it can wait, can't it? This is your future we're talking about. Your fortune. Everything you worked your whole life for. Don't throw it away permanently for whatever this temporary thing is. Jai looked around the tiny hotel room he could barely afford, looked at the photo of Kerry he'd saved on his phone that he stared at every night. I need to think about it. Don't think too long. This offer expires in exactly 2 weeks. After that, we're moving on without you permanently and you'll never get this chance again. Blake hung up. Jai sat on the bed, head in his hands, entire body shaking. Everything he'd lost, right there, offered back. His old life, his fortune, his success. The respect he'd once had. All he had to do was leave London, leave Kerry, leave Eniola, go back to San Francisco and his old life. He could visit though, couldn't he? Holidays, summer vacation. Kerry would understand eventually. She was smart enough to understand, wouldn't she? Over the next week, the temptation grew exponentially. Blake sent detailed contracts to his email, financial projections, numbers that made Jai's head spin, what he'd earn in the first year alone, what he could rebuild over 5 years, the empire he could have again. Jai caught himself looking at luxury apartments in San Francisco online late at night when he couldn't sleep. Caught himself calculating how often he could realistically visit London, once a month, every 6 weeks. That wasn't so bad, was it? Caught himself packing his suitcase one night at 2 in the morning. Kerry noticed he was distracted during their morning walks to school. You okay, Jai? You seem weird. Not Dad. Still just Jai. Yeah, just thinking about some things. That night, Eniola asked directly, What's wrong with you this week? You've been different, distant. What's going on? Nothing's wrong. She didn't believe him for a second, but she didn't push further. 2 weeks passed like torture. The day before Blake's offer would expire forever, Jai made a decision that felt inevitable. He booked a flight to San Francisco for the next morning, used money he didn't really have, packed his bag methodically, carefully, wrote a note to leave for Eniola on the hotel desk. Something important came up that I have to handle. I have to go back to San Francisco for work. I'm sorry. I tried to make this work, but I can't. Please tell Kerry I'm sorry. I'll send money to help support her. I'm sorry. He stood in his hotel room, bag packed completely, note written carefully, taxi already ordered and waiting downstairs in the street. Everything he'd lost was waiting for him in California, his future, his fortune, his entire life as he'd known it. Everything he'd found was here in London. Kerry, Eniola, a chance at being a real father for the first time. The taxi honked impatiently outside, the sound echoing in the quiet street. Jai picked up his bag with shaking hands, walked to the door with heavy steps, opened it slowly, stood in the doorway staring at the empty hallway ahead of him. He thought about Zara at the hospital, her mother sitting alone beside her bed during endless treatments. Her father, who'd left when things got hard, when his daughter needed him most. He thought about Diana at the community center. Her husband, who'd abandoned her and their kids when raising them, became difficult and inconvenient. He thought about Eniola 9 years ago, 23 and pregnant and alone and terrified. Him walking out the door without looking back even once. Her collapsing behind that closed door, crying for hours. He thought about Kerry yesterday, finally starting to warm to him slightly. Thanks for helping, Jai. He thought about her words that very first day they met. People who leave when things get hard are cowards. Jai stood frozen in that doorway for 5 full minutes that felt like hours. Then he closed the door firmly, unpacked his bag with shaking hands, tore up the note into tiny pieces and threw them in the trash, called Blake with trembling fingers. I can't take the offer. I'm staying in London. You're joking. Do you have any idea what you're walking away from? We're talking tens of millions over the next decade. You'll never get an opportunity like this again. Yeah, I know exactly what I'm walking away from, and it's not worth what I'd lose here. You're absolutely insane. You're throwing away everything you worked for your entire life for what? Some random girl you barely know? My daughter, and yeah, I am choosing her over everything else. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing right. He hung up on Blake's angry protests, sat on the bed, entire body shaking violently. He'd almost left, almost repeated the absolute worst mistake of his entire life, almost chosen money and success over his daughter again. But he'd stayed this time. For the first time in his life, he'd chosen the right thing when it was genuinely hard, and cost him everything, when it would have been so much easier to leave. He'd chosen Kerry. Chapter 8. The Long Road. The next morning, Jai showed up for the school walk like nothing had happened. Kerry noticed something different about him immediately. "You seem happier today," she observed. "I am," Jai said honestly. "Why?" "Because I made the right choice about something really important." Kerry didn't ask what choice, but she walked a little closer to him than usual that morning. Eniola's company faced another serious crisis the following week. A competitor was aggressively trying to poach her best engineers with massive salary offers. She was working brutal 18-hour days trying to keep her team together and her company stable. Jai offered to help with Kerry while Eniola handled the crisis. Eniola hesitated for a long moment, clearly uncomfortable, then reluctantly agreed. He picked Kerry up from school every day that week, made dinner using recipes he found online, helped with increasingly difficult homework in subjects he barely understood himself, put her to bed when Eniola worked late into the night at her office. One night Eniola came home at midnight to find the house clean, Kerry peacefully asleep in her bed, and food waiting for her on the kitchen counter still warm. She sat heavily at the kitchen table, looking utterly exhausted beyond words. "Thank you for doing this all week." "You're welcome." Long, heavy silence stretched between them. "I saw the flight confirmation in your trash can yesterday," Eniola said quietly, not looking at him directly. Jai's heart stopped completely. "You booked a flight to San Francisco 2 weeks ago. Then you cancelled it at the last minute." He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe properly. "Were you actually going to leave us again?" Honest, always honest, no matter how much it hurt to admit. "Yes. For about 5 minutes I was seriously considering it. I got an offer from my old partners. Full partnership back. Everything I lost. All I had to do was leave London and go back to San Francisco and my old life. But you didn't leave this time." "I almost did. I packed my suitcase, wrote a goodbye note to you, called a taxi to take me to the airport, stood in the doorway ready to walk out and do the exact same thing I did 9 years ago. What stopped you this time? Kerry, you, remembering exactly who I was 9 years ago and absolutely refusing to be that person ever again, even when it cost me everything I'd worked for my entire life." Eniola's eyes filled with tears. "You almost left us, though. I know, I'm sorry, but I didn't actually do it. I chose you and Kerry over my entire fortune and future and everything I'd built. This time you chose us, but what about next time something tempting comes along? There won't be a next time. I'm done choosing wrong. I'm done being that person." She wiped her eyes roughly. "I'm still so angry at you sometimes for what you did. Furious. You should be angry. You have every right to be. And scared. Terrified you'll leave again when things get hard or when something better comes along for you. I know you're scared. I understand. But I'm not leaving. Not ever again." More silence between them, heavy with history. "I'm not ready to forgive you yet," Eniola said carefully. "Not completely, not fully. But I'm less angry than I was before. That's enough for me. More than enough." 4 more months passed slowly. Kerry got sick, just a terrible flu, but it scared everyone because of how high her fever spiked one night. Jai stayed up with her through multiple nights of fever spikes and chills, read to her when she couldn't sleep through the discomfort, made soup when she could finally eat something solid. Kerry recovered after a difficult week. She looked at Jai differently after that experience. "You stayed," she said quietly one afternoon when they were alone. "Of course I stayed. When I was really sick with the high fever, you stayed right here with me. Didn't go anywhere. I told you I would stay." "Yeah, but—" She struggled with finding the right words to express what she meant. "My friend Sophia's dad promised he'd be there when she got really sick last year, but then he left anyway when it got too hard. Said he couldn't handle watching her suffer." Jai knelt down beside her chair. "I'm never leaving you, Kerry, no matter what happens, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." Kerry hugged him suddenly, unexpectedly, first time she'd initiated any physical contact. "Thanks, Dad. Dad." Jai held her carefully, tears streaming down his face. Real progress, finally. But Eniola remained distant emotionally, still polite, still appreciative of his help with Kerry, still watching carefully for him to fail. He understood completely. Trust took time, more time than he'd given, maybe more time than existed. So he kept showing up regardless, kept being there, kept proving through consistent action, not empty words. Month 7 in London, month 8, month 9, every single day without fail, he stayed. Chapter 9. The earning 9 full months in London. Jai was genuinely broke, living entirely on his dishwashing wages from the diner back home that he'd saved, sending most of it back to America to pay remaining legal fees that still hung over him. But he'd never been happier or more fulfilled in his entire life than he was right now. Kerry called him Dad regularly now, without hesitation. Talked to him about school, friends, her dreams for the future. Let him braid her hair in the mornings before school. Asked his opinion on important things in her life. But Eniola remained carefully walled off emotionally, polite, appreciative of his help with Kerry and around the house, distant. One night, Kerry was asleep upstairs in her room. Jai was washing dishes in the kitchen. Eniola came in and sat at the table with a serious expression. "We need to talk about something important." His heart sank with immediate dread. "Okay." She sat at the table. He dried his hands carefully and sat across from her. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she started carefully. "About what specifically? About you, about us, about everything that's happened over these months." Silence stretched between them like a physical thing. "I'm still angry," she said carefully, choosing her words. "Part of me will always be angry about what you did. The abandonment, the pain. The 9 years Kerry grew up without a father who cared about her. I know, I understand that. But I'm also tired, so incredibly tired of holding on to this anger constantly. It's absolutely exhausting carrying it around every day, and it's not fair to Kerry. She deserves to have both parents in her life without feeling torn between us or guilty." Jai waited, hardly daring to breathe. "I don't trust you yet, not completely, not fully with everything, but I'm trying to trust you. And that's real progress for me." "It is progress. Significant progress. You stayed when you had an easy out with your partners. You chose us over your entire fortune without hesitation. That means something significant to me. It's what I should have done 9 years ago." "Yes, but you couldn't change the past, no matter how much you wish you could. You can only be better now in the present, and you are genuinely better than you were. I see it clearly every day." Tears started falling down her face. "I forgive you, Jai." He couldn't breathe, couldn't process what he was hearing her say. "Not because you deserve my forgiveness. You don't deserve it. But because holding on to unforgiveness is slowly destroying me from the inside. Because Kerry loves you deeply, and you've proven beyond doubt you love her back. Because I desperately need to move forward, instead of staying stuck in the painful past forever. Eniola, I forgive you for leaving me when I was pregnant and terrified. For the abandonment, for all the pain you caused over 9 years. I forgive you." She was crying openly now without trying to hide it. Jai was crying too. But forgiveness doesn't automatically mean trust. Trust takes significantly more time to build. Maybe years, maybe forever. I honestly don't know if I'll ever fully trust you not to leave again when things get difficult for you. I understand that completely. Do you really understand? Yes. I'll spend the rest of my entire life proving I won't leave. Every single day for as long as I live, I'll prove it through actions. Eniola wiped her eyes. That's all I can ask from you. They sat in heavy silence. Something fundamental had shifted between them. Not healed completely, but shifted significantly in the right direction. Thank you, Jai whispered. Don't thank me. This forgiveness is for me as much as it is for you. I needed to let go of the anger that was eating me alive, to stop letting the painful past control my present and future. She stood to leave, started walking toward the stairs, paused. You're a genuinely good father to Kerry now. Whatever else happened between us in the past, you're being exactly the father she needs in the present moment. That matters enormously to me. Then she went upstairs to her room. Jai sat alone in the kitchen, completely overwhelmed by what had just happened. Forgiven. Not completely, not perfectly, but forgiven. He'd earned his way back into their lives, not through money or grand gestures or dramatic moments, through time, through consistency, through staying when leaving would have been infinitely easier for him, through choosing them. Every single day. Chapter 10. The Earned Beginning. Kerry's 10th birthday arrived on a perfect spring day with clear blue skies and warm sunshine. She wanted a small, intimate party, just family, which now meant Jai and Eniola together, and a few of Kerry's closest school friends. They decorated the back garden together with colourful streamers and balloons. Eniola made Kerry's favourite chocolate cake from scratch in the kitchen. Jai set up games and activities, running around excitedly like an overgrown child who'd forgotten his age. Kerry laughed genuinely at him. Dad, you're acting worse than my friends are. Dad. She said it naturally now, easily, like it had always been that way from the beginning. The party was beautiful and perfect in its simplicity, simple and full of genuine love. Kerry blew out her candles and made a silent wish with her eyes closed tight. What did you wish for? One of her friends asked curiously. Kerry looked at Jai and Eniola standing together, both smiling at her. It already came true. After her friends left in the late afternoon, the three of them sat together in the peaceful garden, Kerry between her parents, happy and healthy and completely loved. This was honestly the best birthday ever, Kerry said contentedly. Thank you both so much. You're very welcome, sweetheart, Eniola said warmly. Kerry looked at Jai seriously. I'm glad you came back, even though it took you 9 years. I'm really glad you're here now. Jai hugged her tightly. I love you so much, Kerry. I love you too, Dad. She went inside to play with her new birthday presents, leaving Jai and Eniola alone in the garden as the sun began to set. She's genuinely happy, Eniola observed quietly, because of you. You raised an incredible daughter all alone. We have an incredible daughter, Eniola corrected gently. You're part of this family now. Jai looked at her carefully. Can I ask you something personal? Anything. Will you let me love you again? Not the way I did before when I was selfish. Better this time. The right way. The way you always deserved from the beginning. Eniola was quiet for a long moment, thinking. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. The trust is there now, mostly. But romance. I need more time to process everything that happened. I understand completely. Take all the time you need. But ask me again in a year, she added softly, smiling slightly for the first time. After you've proven you can stay consistently through ordinary days, not just crises. After I've had real time to remember what it feels like to let someone in romantically. I'll wait as long as you need, forever if that's what it takes. Good, because I think I might want to say yes, eventually. They sat together watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Two people who'd utterly destroyed each other finding their way back through their daughter. Kerry called from inside the house. "Mum! Dad! Come see what I made with my new art set." They went inside together, a family, not perfect, not without permanent scars that would always remain, but whole. Jai had spent 9 years running from the best thing that ever happened to him. He'd wasted precious time and hurt people deeply and built a meaningless life. But now he was here, with his daughter, with Eniola, building something real and lasting, a second chance, earned through sacrifice and time and unconditional love, not given freely, earned through suffering and change, and he would never, ever take it for granted again. The end.